right, good afternoon again. How was lunch? You guys had a good lunch? Yeah, the food was actually pretty good. I was Keisha, the new state coordinator for NED. I think I met most of you guys in July when I started at new coordinators training for those that was there. And if not, I probably will meet you at Seattle. If not, if this is my first time meeting you, hello. Again, Keisha Tucker, my team leader. Jennifer Rose is also here. I started in July, so I'm still technically new to NED, but I have learned a lot from July to now. All right, the title of this session is Neglected and Delinquent Programs Managing the Complexities. When you work with NED, you know there's a lot of complexities that come along with NED. It's not just black and white. There's a lot of gray areas when you're referring to NED. All right, the purpose of Title I Part B, Neglected and Delinquent Education. First purpose is to improve educational services for children and youth. That's the main purpose. You want to improve those educational services, not just for the regular kids, but all our kids that are in residential facilities, our kids that are institutionalized. You want to make sure that they have the same shot at education as everyone else. So you want to improve the services for them. You want to also provide such children and youth with services needed to make a successful transition from institutions to further their schooling or employment if that's what they choose. You want to make sure that you provide them with the same opportunity and services as your students that are in K-12 education. And you want to prevent at-risk youth from dropping out of school. That's the third purpose. You want to make sure that they do not drop out of school. And if they do drop out of school, you want to make sure that they somehow transition back. And you want to make sure that they're on either GED track or workforce track. You want to make sure that they end up being successful and have a fair shot, just like every other child. Those are your purposes of NED. There are three subparts that fall under NED. I'm sorry, if you guys, I don't know if you want me to stand up front, but I hate standing up front, but I know the mic is up here, so I'll try to stay close as possible. When I get close, I can't see. So there are three subparts that fall under NED. You have subpart 1, subpart 2, and subpart 3. Subpart 1 funds your state agencies. Those are your state agencies like DJJ, Charleston Detention Center. Those are your state agencies, and we fund those programs for children and youth living in institutions for neglected or delinquent children. They are either attending community day programs or living in correctional institutions. That's your subpart 1. Your subpart 2 are your SCAs. Your subpart 2 are your LEs. Those are your districts. We fund the district neglected and facilities that fall within your geographical areas as well. That's your subpart 2. And subpart 3 is your evaluation. Every 3 years, you have to turn in an evaluation to the State Department for us to disaggregate your data and see if there's progress or not with your facilities. But you know that you're not just evaluating every 3 years. You should be evaluating every year, holding on to that data. You disaggregating that data, and then every 3 years turning in that data to us for us to analyze. Your focus of the program. There are 3 main focus of your NED program.
Can I ask a question about the evaluation?
Yes.
Because a lot of the kids are transient. When you look at that evaluation, what are you looking for? Because unlike students who are not as transient, sometimes it's easier to keep up with that. So I guess when you're looking at your numbers or looking at whatever, I guess I'm just curious as to what you're looking for, that the services are there, or because even when you're trying for the success of some of these areas, it's difficult because the kid may be with us for a weekend or a week. So what is our goal?
And I remember that coming in when I came in July. That's what I started with. Because you guys had just turned in, I think, your 3rd year evaluation data, and I was looking at that when I came in July and disaggregating the data. Or at least that's what I started with. That's what I started looking at. And I noticed then that when I reached out to some of the facilities, because some data was missing, some students didn't have pre-assessment, some students didn't have a post-assessment. And they explained to me at that time that the data because it's so transient. So I look at it as a whole picture. I look at it holistically instead of just looking at those particular unit. This student may not have a post test. This student may not have a pre-test. I understand that, and I'm still learning on the facilities and learning. Some of them are extremely transient, so we take those things into consideration.
So I guess what I'm saying is in fact, I guess I'm having a hard time understanding kind of what's being evaluated. Like, I guess if you're saying, hey, we provide these services and the services have been in place for multiple years, that would be kind of a positive evaluation versus saying we've got 6 kids who graduated.
We're looking at the amount of students who are on, let's say, diploma track. How many students are receiving those high school course credits? How many students have earned a GED? How many students have gone into the workforce? All of those numbers, with the fall coming out of your facility, matter. Not just how many receive their GED, but all of it as a whole. That's what we're looking at. And not only just the data, there's also a written portion of the Q&A that you're answering based on those facilities. I look at all of that. So Q&A, and I will say, since we're talking about, because I have that later on in the slide, since we're talking about the third year evaluation, I noticed that the data portion of it, that was, you can't put the data, but the data, the data was there. But your Q&A portion, when I was evaluating it, and I know that these are coming from your facilities, and then you're turning it into us. Make sure that your facilities are answering the questions. Some of them are being very vague in their responses, and it's not giving me enough to go off of. So if you can, before you submit it to the State Department, just make sure they're actually answering the question that's being asked. Because some of them are giving answers, but it's not really answering the question that's being asked, if that makes any sense. So just make sure you kind of preview that before sending it over to myself. The focus of the program. That is your reading and language arts, math, and transition. That is the focus of N&D, to make sure that everything that surrounds N&D falls in line with these 3 program focus. I know when I started back in July, I got a lot of questions about allowable use of funds, and my answer was always, if it ties into your program focus, or tied into your needs of the facility, and it falls within the allowable use, the guidance, then it should be fine. But it make sure it centers around your program focus. I had some things that science, for example, it has to fall in line with the program focus in order for it to be allowable.
So science, if you're doing a needs assessment with them, and science is an identified need, that's not.
From my understanding, Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong, it has to tie into reading, language arts, math, and transition services. And again, this is the allowable use of funds. These are the things that are allowable. And I will say, I've had a lot of questions about providing some examples. I'm working on it. Because I know that that's a little bit vague too. I'll get questions about, well, does this fall in do transportation? Does this fall into transportation? Does this fall into field experiences? I am working on putting together something that will be a little bit more user-friendly for you. Don't know when I can get that out to you, but it's in the works. So just give me some time there and I'll get something out to you that would give some examples for each bullet that's up there. I'll leave that up for a minute. All right, supplement, not supplant. I know if you were at SCADA, I did not have this in the presentation at SCADA, but I wanted to make sure that I covered this today because I know that it's across all the grants, but I didn't have it in my presentation at SCADA. N&D funds should come on top of what you're already doing, just like with any other grants. It should be supplement, not supplant. And again, at the bottom it says Title I-G funds must be used to add on to existing programs and not replace them. So we're coming on top of it. Reallocation of funds. This is something else that I did not mention. if you guys were at SCADA. And I'm not sure, I haven't been in this position very long, but I'm not sure if reallocation of funds is something that we've always done. So I want to make sure that you guys are aware that we can do it. We can conduct assessments to see where funds are not being utilized and reallocate those to other agencies that need them. Yes.
So one thing that keep in mind is that if you don't think the facility is going to expend all the funds, you can contact us and say, all the funding is not going to be used. Instead of waiting and leaving it on the table. We can reallocate if we know ahead of time. So you can contact us if you feel like it's not all going to be spent.
All right, application budget amendment process. This page refers to if you've already submitted an application within GEMS and it's already been approved and you need to make amendments, you have to follow that process and procedure to make the amendments within GEMS. Budget amendments are required for any changes to the approved application or plan within GEMS. You must submit the application change amendment section via GEMS, update the budget and gaps after the amendment has been approved. And then the State Department will come in once the budget has been updated and approved within gaps. That third bullet just simply tells you to number each activity and indicate whether the activity is a district set aside or is it a facility activity. So make sure you do that portion as well, referring to the amendments and the changes that you're making within your budget after the application has already been approved within GEMS.
So if we have a facility that wants to no longer participate in this, right? We don't want help the federal funding.
We'll come to that at the end. All right, subpart 3, and this is when I jumped ahead of myself a little bit earlier. This is referring to the third-year evaluation that I already explained. All right, GEMS overview. I'm not sure what GEMS looks like on your end. I don't know if it looks the same on your end as it does on our end. But within GEMS, this is what it looks like on our end. This is the N&D GEMS application process. It's composed of several links. When you go to submit your application for N&D, every link that you see here needs to be completed before it's submitted. All of those links have to be completed before submission. This link is your maintenance of fiscal effort. This year, the applications were due February. I got a couple of them in that I had to return because they had zeros there. You need to make sure that accurate data is being placed under maintenance of fiscal effort, because if I see zeros or I see numbers that don't look quite right to me, I do have to return. And I think I returned a couple of them this year. Facility overview. This is another section within GEMS that has to be completed, where I'm not getting a lot of meat, just very vague 1 to 3 word responses. So just make sure that you are completing your facility overview within GEMS. This one, the program details link, this is just a reminder that this link also has to be completed to make sure that you're not skipping over this link as well. Highly important, the evaluation not being conducted with Fidelity. We just talked about that. That's especially that Q&A page, the second page that you turn in along with your data page, is just not being completed with Fidelity. Again, just make sure that you're looking behind your facilities when they turn in documentation to you to make sure that it makes sense to you before you submit it to me. This is a related link document within GEMS. I'm not going to click on all of these links. This just shows everything that goes in GEMS under related documents. These are all the things that I need. These are all the things that I look at when I'm approving applications. I will say that I did have to return a couple this year for the maintenance of agreement. The maintenance of agreement is an agreement between you, the district, and the facility. I was getting in a lot of maintenance of agreement that only had the facility signature on it. but not you as the district coordinator's signature. Remember, it's an agreement. So I do need both parties to sign it. If it's not signed, it's not technically an agreement. So that's why I had to return some of those this year because I was missing a signature. Facility site narrative. That is also a document that goes in under your related document. And I do know that some of the questions sometimes doesn't apply to some of the facilities and they'll put NA, that's fine. If it's a question under there and it's not applicable to that particular facility, it is definitely fine if they put NA. But the ones that are for that facility, I need them to make sure that they're answering the questions with fidelity. GEMS document library. I'm gonna skip this and come back to this one. The activity summary page. That also goes within GEMS under your related documents. This is kind of like, look at it as a worksheet for your budget. This is what you put all of your activities on that refers to math and language arts and reading and the total cost of each activity before you do the breakdown within the budget section of GEMS. Kind of your worksheet. All right, data reporting. The October count. Can anybody tell me the purpose of the October count? Correct. That's important because it determines your allocation for the next year. So make sure that the facilities are providing accurate data to you guys when doing the October account. I do know that I did have to reach out to a couple of districts just because some of the numbers looked a little weird. For example, they had there's two sheets that you turn in. One sheet had 82 and another sheet had 8. Now I know that they probably left off the 2 on one sheet to represent the 82, but it still has to be documented that it's 82. So when they're turning in documentation to you guys to submit to me, just please go back over it for them just to make sure it's accurate. Because I could put down 8 students, but I know it wasn't 8 students because the separate sheet said 82. So just make sure that they are turning in accurate information to you so we have accurate information to report to the U.S. Department of Education. The October account is normally due in December, the second week in December. This is just information for the October account for essays, state agencies. Both state agencies, of course, and LEAs have to conduct the October count for their facilities. I want to go back to that slide that I skipped earlier. This is your LEA document library. This is where you would submit that data for the October count under your LEA document library. All right, CSPR data. This is for state agencies only state agencies have to submit the CSPR data. And again, this is just more data from their particular facility that we have to submit to the U.S. Department of Education. Timelines, yes. Timelines. This is your timeline, October, your October count. January, your CSPR data, that's for the state agencies. And then December, October count due by December, again, normally the second week in January. Notices sent via regular email with detached instructions on how to conduct the annual count. Normally, when we send out that email, it comes with about 6 to 7 attachments. The instructions, Q&A, everything that you need. But of course, if you have questions in regards to the October count, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Jennifer. But we normally try to make sure that you have everything that you need to make sure that you are able to successfully complete that October count. Because again, that ties to your funding. Timeline, again, that's just another timeline. And I'll just leave that up for a second. All right, monitoring. Can anyone tell me what's the purpose of monitoring? Ooh, I'm going to call on someone. I feel like a teacher again. Sonia.
When you complete your monitoring of your also in your geographical area and districts. What you're doing is making sure that they are in compliance, that they are documented, that they have all the required pieces to run the program, and you're looking to make sure that they're documented. And they have
That is correct. I don't know if you guys could hear her, but she said the major word, compliance. Making sure that you're in compliance. Now, we don't do the monitoring. There's a separate team that comes in and does the monitoring. That's Barrett's team. They come behind us and make sure that everything is in the order it should be. That is your monitoring schedule. So if you did go to Barrett's session before lunch, he has the monitoring schedule up for the upcoming year, for those of you that was able to attend that session. All right, there are resources. I'm not going to click on this link because you guys are going to have access to the power. I see somebody was trying to look at the monitoring schedule, so I'll go back. But there's several links in there that I put in there for resources that you guys can review at your leisure. I know that you're going to be super bored when you get back to your hotels or your houses tonight, so that's some good nightly reading for you tonight if you want to go through your resources. Questions? I know that we had a question earlier.
It's not in the fall, right?
I'm sorry.
You've already done some of this in the fall, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I have a question. So Title I funds, this is part of Title I.
Mm-hmm.
One of those most at risk.
Mm-hmm.
How are these entities identified? Because we get the list from, you guys tell us who qualifies. So how are they identified?
They are actually identified through DHEC and DSS. They generate the list. They determine whether the facilities fall within what their need is. And I'm not really sure how they determine on their end.
So they don't have to be nonprofit because we're serving them. I tell you, this really sets wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would hate for the newspaper to come out and question me about it because we're serving a school that charges $10,000 a month for children to go to. And then we give them a huge amount of money from Title I. And so I have a real issue with that.
You can email that to she and I.
Okay. Because that's just not something I feel comfortable with.
I understand. But what we need to verify is that they are on that DSS or DHEC list, and they're eligible for the Title I partner funding. But just send me an email and Jennifer and I will get together and make sure that you
And then another question is, if an entity facility decides they don't want to participate any longer, we let you guys know at that point so they can stop and move you.
correct.
Is that bad?
Is it bad that they no longer want to participate? I mean, there could be reasons why they obviously no longer receive any funding.
You would hope not to see that,
Mhm.
right? And so there would be conversations between all of us and you talking to them about how much of the funding have you used to this point? Why are you wanting to expand the services? It's not like, hey, I'm done. I don't want to keep up with paperwork anymore or whatever.
Yeah.
It's conversation work.
Yeah, because it worries me that of course, I want to do a conference needs assessment with them. We went out and did the conference needs assessment. We're really looking at the data and trying to figure out what it is that the school needs. And, we've counted mathematics and language arts for years and years and years, and that's something they feel like they have a good handle of how they're going to proceed with that. Well, then they have other needs that are like, it's nice, science is a great thing to have, but we can't support that. And we have one facility that's mostly special ed, and so those kids are mostly autistic, and so they want sensory pathways. But, we've got to be able to change what's best for children, not what fits within our compliance that we see as compliance.
Some things are compliant, which we have to be careful with on our side, but then there are conversations right, we can have. So if you do the need, you want to send a list, and Keith and I can do that with you, we can have these conversations against allow use funds document, things of that nature. To sit in here and be like black, white,
Right.
sometimes it's not always the case. The focus is transition as they're moving in and out, reading, math, that academic, that strong academic piece, but we'll talk with you as you go into your spring plan.
Any more questions? If you think of questions later, feel free to email me.
But let me just say that we're in the middle of an entity audit on our level, okay? So right now, everything is submitted to them and they're still in the queue to have interviews with us. It is the week of April the 21st. Right now, I feel like their focus is DJJ, Palmetto Unified, and Charleston. But if I hear differently, you know, I could have to think of somebody else. But currently, that's where the focus looks like it's going to be. Okay, so I just want to make you aware that that has not been canceled due to what's going on in the Department of Ed. It looks like they're continuing services in that way. So that's where we are today.
I put my contact information on the board for you. Jennifer's up there as well. So if you think of more questions that didn't get answered today, please feel free to reach out to either one of us, and we'll get back in touch with you.
Is it appropriate to post a couple of really great ways?
Absolutely. All right, so she wants you to share if there's anything that you're doing within your district, your facility that's working well for you, things that you've learned along the way, if you don't mind sharing that out for the group.
I'll go.
Thank you.
Just because it's one of the worst things that I have to do is to deal with this place. Okay, it's you know, getting them to write anything, trying to keep up. I feel so much better after you said you're looking at an overall and not because I have this spreadsheet that's just holes, because they're never there long enough to have a pre and post. So I'm glad I feel much better that you said that. We've gone through a lot, as long as y'all are getting $33,000 again to spend at one time. The one thing that I have found that I've been able to satisfy him with is tutoring at his facility and paying a lot an hour because for people to actually go and to do it. And usually, and I finally found where he has found someone who comes and makes a lot of money, but she comes consistently and she works with those boys, and it's been the best thing that, you know, I've been able to find to do. In fact, we end up running out of money and he's looking for more money for the tutoring.
Thank you for sharing.
And I don't know how to say that was the payment hour, but the district, I mean, you know, you just have to do what you got to do to get people in there. I mean, with reasonableness, yeah, I'm not paying them salary, but you know, to be able to get them in there, sometimes it took a little more. And once we did that, we were able to do it.
And I'll say this too. If you have a hard time like working with your facility and you want her to come down and support you in that way, as like the liaison between you and the facility, we're here to support you, to support these children. So just, you know, you can get in contact with us. You can come out and help. If you want her to sit in on the training that you do, she can do that, come in and do training for you. You know, as a state coordinator, we're here to help you as you work with these facilities.
Is there anyone else that would like to share out?
I can just share, I don't know, not that any other district have problems with facilities spending down their funds like they should. But what we do in Charleston, right after we receive the funds, after the funds come in, we meet as the district office and the facility will meet, and we provide them with an expenditure tracking sheet. All they have to do is enter whatever they spend the funds on and the amount, and it keeps up with, you know, let them, so they can physically see how they're spending down the funds. And that has worked, you know, in our district. So if they're using it, then they can keep up with the spending. And it's what we need is the expenditure tracking sheet. And what they're not spending.
Thank you for sharing, Tanya.
Just enough resources so as children come in and out. The expectation is they can take that book with them. So that they can continue to collaborate together.
Is this an allowance that summer field trips like to local colleges and job places and things of that sort can be
That
paid?
one's kind of like Title I, it's kind of the same type of allowability. So we would have them fill out like a field trip form, how it relates to academics, all of that deal, and then we will look at it just like we would in Title I. So it brings some accountability to it. Sure, they need experiences, but like Title I, we're not going to care what you do.
No, got it. Got it.
I have a random question. It's just, if you're transitioning to employment, and I don't have the accountability memorized right off, would we be able to purchase, say, something like a simple button-down shirt and padded pants for like an interview?
It's a possibility.
All right, if there are no more questions, I'm going to turn the floor over to Ms. Theresa Gregory. It is now, yes.
First of all, did everybody get did I scan everyone and did everyone get a ticket? Well, it's time to win this fabulous prize with hands, with your own little section to tell you where they are. All right, I got two to give away. So the first one is 589-138. You could not go back without. And my next one is 59143. Thank you all. Appreciate you.